Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
And I'm Pauline Verzosa.
The big stories tonight, we're counting the last several minutes until former President Rodrigo Duterte faces the International Criminal Court for the first time. At around 9 p.m. or so, suspect Duterte undergoes initial proceedings at the Hague courtroom.
And Harry Roque is spotted in the Netherlands and presents himself as Duterte's counsel hours before court appearance. The former presidential spokesman, who is facing human trafficking charges back here at home, arrived with Vice President Sara Duterte and Senator Robin Padilla.
And from Malacanang to Davao, the government and the Dutertes are still trading accusations over the supposed motive behind Duterte's arrest. In the next hour or so, former President Rodrigo Duterte will be facing the International Criminal Court, which has indicted him on the charge of murder as a crime against humanity over his deadly war on drugs. During the hearing, Duterte will face 3 women judges of the ICC Tribunal Chamber 1. Here, Duterte will be informed of the crimes he is alleged to have committed, as well as his rights as a defendant, including the right to apply for interim release pending trial.
Now, the prosecution will also be presenting its evidence against Duterte, which the judges will determine if these are sufficient to go to trial. The suspect, in this case Duterte, may object to his charges, challenge the prosecution's evidence, and may also present his own evidence. Duterte initially requested that he be assisted by his executive secretary, Salvador Medialdea, and the Office of Public Counsel for Defense, to which the ICC registry has acknowledged.
Around 4:30 this afternoon Manila time, Vice President Sara Duterte, accompanied by Attorney Harry Roque and Senator Robin Padilla, arrived at the ICC Detention Center. Our own Gretchen Ho was there, and we speak to her now live from The Hague. Gretchen, did Vice President Sara Duterte manage to talk to her father?
I'm coming to you live here from outside the International Criminal Court headquarters over at The Hague in Netherlands, and it is quite a tense hour because right now it is at 12:30, and the anti-Duterte protesters have arrived. So they just got here, but they are on the other side. Nandun sila, at ito yung pro-Duterte supporters, no? So may mga security na sa gitna to prevent anything unruly from happening. But speaking of answering your question, hindi pa mukhang kanina, hindi pa nakakausap ni Vice President Sara Duterte ang kanyang ama. They were trying to get inside the building early. That was at 9 a.m. here at The Hague. At 2 p.m. yung hearing. They were trying to get inside, but as Attorney Harry Roque said, there's a whole lot of procedures and emails that you'd have to send to be able to get the ICC approval. Hindi pa nakikita si Vice President, si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, pati na rin sila Attorney Harry Roque at si Senator Robin Padilla, who is also here in the Netherlands. What we do know is that Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea was able to get inside the ICC Detention Center and talk to the former president. He is the official listed counsel as of now of the former president.
Gretchen, Attorney Roque has mentioned that he will be seeking a postponement of the proceedings today. But before that, has he already been accredited by the ICC?
That's correct. They are seeking to postpone what will happen today, the initial proceedings. That's before the pre-trial process. So the initial proceedings actually are just number 1, to confirm the identity of the suspect. Number 2 is to talk about the language to be used in the hearings. Number 3 is he's going to be made aware of the charges or the alleged crimes that he's committed. And number 4 is the rights in the wrong statute that he can avail of. And speaking of becoming listed counsel to the former president, sinasabi ni Attorney Harry Roque, hindi pa sila official counsel ng dating Pangulo, pero listed counsel siya to the ICC. So kumbaga accredited siya as an ICC lawyer, kasabay ng isa pang lawyer na Attorney Kaufman. I heard him say that he was British and he's also listed counsel to the ICC. They're looking at the 3-lawyer legal team of the former president. Kasama na dyan si Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea. As to the postponement of what is going to happen today, the arguments that he mentioned was that they were going to argue over the jurisdiction of the ICC in the Philippines. Number 2 is the kind of arrest that was done in our country. He says it was illegal. And number 3, hindi pa nga nila nakakausap, no? Sabi nila, we have not seen, we have not spoken to the former president, and ihahain daw niya doon nga sa mahistrado nitong ICC.
Well, Gretchen, Mr. Duterte is already set to face the ICC in less than 2 hours. How hopeful is the Vice President, Attorney Harry Roque, na magagrant pa itong appeal nila na ma-postpone ang initial appearance ni Duterte?
Actually, Pauline, tinatanong natin kanina kung nahain na nila at sabi nga ni Attorney Harry Roque, parang hindi pa. Mukhang ginagawa pa lang nila kasi kanina nasa cellphone sila. Medyo busy sila, nagsisend ng email. Siguro yun, yung bukod nga sa official visit to the former president, yun din yung mga kahilingan nila. So they left this place to be able to do the paperwork of that. And speaking of ito na medyo marami na tayong supporters ng dating Pangulo nakikita dito sa akin Quran. Marami ang nagtungo rito mula dito sa Netherlands. Marami rin mula sa iba't ibang parte ng Europa. Meron pang taga-Qatar, sa Paris, Belgium, UK. Ito yung mga taga-suporta ng dating Pangulo. At kanina pa nila sinasabi ang mga salitang, send him back.
Gretchen, how accessible will the initial appearance that of the pre-trial be later? Makakapasok ba kayong mga members ng media? Kailangan mag-accredit, di ba?
Magiging tama yan, ano? Katulad nila Vice President at sa kanila Attorney Harry Roque at Senator ay kailangan mag-send ng email dito sa ICC to be able to get accreditation as media. Actually, parang mukhang nakapasok na yung ibang ating kasama kasi malapit na magsimula bago tayo napunta dahil first come, first serve. Pati na rin sa publiko, some of them will be allowed to go inside, but not all. Not all of this have received confirmation from the ICC. Meron mga maswerteng makakapasok sa loob. But this will be live streamed, 30 minutes delayed in the Philippines. At alam din natin, meron tayong mga diplomats at consular members na papasok sa loob to be able to witness the hearing, the initial proceedings of the whole investigation.
Gretchen, were you able to talk to Senator Padilla and what the purpose of his visit is there?
Test, tinanong natin yan, kinakabul natin Senator Padilla. Bakit sila nandito? Ano po ginagawa niyo? Meron po bang hahabol? Talagang no comment ang kanilang salita. No? Ayaw nila magbigay ng kahit anong pahayag because they are also confounded with how to deal with everything medyo sensitibo. Paulit-ulit no comment. At yun nga, maswerte nga tayo kahit paano nagbigay sila ng salita at nagbigay sila ng pahayag nung bandang dulo dahil na rin siguro sa pag-uudyok ng mga tao dito. Ang daming media nandito, ang daming ring supporters. We saw the senator also take photos with a lot of the fans here, giving them quite a treat for coming all the way. Also, the vice president spending some time asking them kung nag-miss ba sila ng trabaho, saan sila nanggaling, na wag nila pabayaan yung kanilang mga trabaho para hindi sila mawalan. Pero yun nga, no, sinabi rin ni Vice President kanina na hindi ang pamilya Duterte ang problema ng Pilipinas. Ang sinabi niya ay ang problema daw ay ang kahirapan, ang korupsyon ang kawalan ng oportunidad. And she was speaking to this OFW crowd who had to go abroad to be able to find greener pastures. So they did spend some time with the OFW community here, catering to them. But as of why the senator is here, we do not know for now.
Well, he did say before that he's willing to be incarcerated with the former president, right?
Oo, tama yan. Pero yun nga, gusto ko nga rin itanong kanina kung sasama sa loob. Mukhang yun ang plano ni Senator. Kasi talagang talaga they were trying to get inside. Sabay-sabay sila. So mukhang kasama rin si Senator Robin Padilla kung ano man yung mangyayari mamaya.
But going back to the possible request for postponement of the proceedings today, this is the position of Attorney Roque. But are there any indications if he has been able to talk to Medjaldea, who is also actually the accredited lawyer for the former president in the proceedings today?
Ako, yun nga yung kasi kanina nung nandito sila, ang sabi lang ni Attorney Harry Roque, kasalukuyang nandoon sa loob si Executive Secretary Medjaldea. Hindi natin nakuhanan ng update itong si Attorney Harry Roque kung nakausap niya right after that. But they wanted really to try to see the former president before his initial appearance before the pre-trial chamber. Yun yung kanilang pakay. And yun nga, they were in the middle of doing all of those emails. And speaking of talagang medyo marami ng tao dito talaga nagsisipuntahan at marami pang aabangan dahil there are I think about 3 buses that are making their way to the Hague, Netherlands over the weekend at mukhang sinabi rin ni Vice President Sara Duterte na magkakaroon daw ng press conference later today when they will be able to answer questions from the media. Also, Attorney Harry Roque trying to get in touch with us to be able to answer our questions. But for now, ayun lang ang kanilang mabibigay kasi they're also trying to find a way to get inside.
And Gretchen, well, one of the rights of the accused, in this case si Duterte nga, is to request ng interim release. Balikan lang natin ano ba yung mga batayan para mag-grant ng interim release at ito ba ihihingin nga ng kampo ni Duterte?
That's correct. Isa sa mga babasahin sa kanya yung kanyang rights under the Rome Statute. Under Article 60, he has a right to request for an interim release. Meaning yun nga, yung pansamantalang pagkakalaya at dito, the pre-trial chamber will determine if number 1 is not a flight risk, number 2 is not a risk to the witnesses and victims, number 3, he will not risk or interfere in the investigation, and number 4, that he will not cause continuing commission of crimes. So if he was able to satisfy all of those conditions, then he can be granted the interim release request. But, nire-research natin kung meron nga bang precedent itong pagbibigay ng interim release request. At nakita natin, meron tayong mga nabasang kaso na matagal nang nililitis, matagal nang under trial, at saka binigyan ng interim release request. Pero yung sa ganito kainit at ka-fresh na issue, hindi natin sigurado. But one of the reasons why he is kept here is because they do not believe that he can be summoned and that they need him here to be able to appear in the proceedings.
Also, Gretchen, a quick check online on whether postponements have been granted for initial proceedings. There have been indeed cases of the grant of postponement. So, it's going to be a long day for you over there and a long night for us here in Manila. So, thank you, Gretchen, for that update. We'll be surely hearing you later on before we go back in the program.
All right, maraming salamat sa inyo, Seth and Pauline. Stay tuned.
In the meantime, back here at home, there is no attempt to storm the Duterte family's home in Davao City. The Philippine National Police insists this after Mayor Baste and his sister Veronica Kitty Duterte alleged there will be an attempt to ransack the house.
And now neighbors and supporters are keeping guard of the property. And from Davao City, we'll get updates live from News 5 correspondent Bril Montalvo. Bril, kamusta na ang sitwasyon dyan ngayon?
Says Pauline, I'm still here in front of the Duterte's family ancestral house in Davao City. As you can see, throngs of people are still here, both neighbors and supporters of the Duterte family. This was after the Duterte siblings, Mayor Baste and Veronica, sounded the alarm on an alleged attempt to raid their home after the arrest of their father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. From Manila, Baste Duterte had to rush back to his father's house in Doña Luisa Subdivision, Davao City at past 10 in the evening Thursday. The Davao City mayor was in Manila processing his travel papers to the Netherlands when he got wind of information that Digong's home will be raided.
Nakoy nadawat yung impormasyon nga sudlon daw ang bahay. Wala may kaso. Wala kaso na gyud sa tinuod lang. So sila, gusto sila mo tanaw na nakoy respeto sa trabaho sa polis. Ang problema diha, wa koy salig sa liderato nato karon.
In an exclusive interview, Digong's daughter Veronica or Kitty also had the same news and claimed that authorities were up to no good.
Pagbantay lang yun ta, video hatanan mahitabo kay kana sila maro kaayo na sila magtanom na sila og bisag unsa sa pagkay.
Magtanom basi tamnan daw og
sila problema nga wala. So, bantay lang yun ta.
She refused to show her video nor disclose her current location, but Kitty said she is planning to go to the Netherlands too. Meanwhile, the Duterte's neighbors and supporters are also keeping a close watch of Digong's house and what could be his fate, and his faces the ICC in The Hague.
Dili na to gusto nga tanuman nila og bala ang atong presidente.
Over in Mandawi City in the province of Cebu, there are pocket rallies and gatherings being staged for Duterte. The former president's supporters shared a common sentiment. Their Tatay Digong should be freed as soon as possible, and that if he has to stand trial, he should be prosecuted right here in the Philippines. Says Pulina Police Region 11 has already debunked the Duterte siblings' claim that there is going to be a raid at the Duterte family's home. And to be honest, there was still not seeing police forces here around the house since yesterday. But the Duterte's neighbors and supporters vowed to stay here, especially for tonight, as former President Rodrigo Duterte appears for the first time in front of the International Trial Court.
Well, thank you very much for that update. That was News 5 correspondent Bril Montalvo reporting to us live from Davao City.
Intense emotions indeed the past couple of days. Here's another from former Presidential Legal Counsel Sal Panelo calling out Duterte ally and presidential sister Senator Amy Marcos.
Balat kayo pala, buhay sa mundo. Yan ang sagot ko sa kanya. Bulay-mulay lang mo.
You're watching the big story here on One News. The government has confirmed they arranged and paid for the chartered plane that former President Duterte rode to the Netherlands Tuesday. Malacanang did not disclose how much was spent on the chartered flight, but was clear the government will not cover costs of Duterte once at The Hague.
Opo, ina-admit po na ang palasyo po, ang nagbayad, ang gobyerno po. After natin dala po ang dating Pangulo sa ICC, wala na po kamay o responsibilidad ang gobyerno kay dating Pangulong Duterte.
The palace also assured a fair trial be given to the former president, but will comply if the ICC issues a seize order of the Duterte's assets while the trial is ongoing. At the same time, they dismissed claims that Duterte's arrest was a demolition job and denied accusations the president is conducting loyalty checks within the Philippine National Police.
Paano po magiging demolition job kung ito pong kasong to ay na-file na? Hindi pa po panahon ng eleksyon, hindi pa po panahon ni Pangulong Marcos. Ito po, naisampa po yata to kung di ako nagkakamali taong 2017. Matagal na nga po eh. Sa ating pong paningin, ang pagkakalat po ng mga gintong klaseng kwento ay para po mas lumaki ang simpatya sa dating Pangulong Duterte.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte will be facing a 3-judge panel from the ICC pretrial chamber in just a few hours, and many are wondering what will happen during the hearing. Here, his identity as a suspect will be verified. The trial language will be determined, and he will be formally informed of the charges against him and his rights under the ICC Rome Statute, including choosing a lawyer from the ICC's accredited list. Duterte may request for an interim release while awaiting trial, but the court will only grant this if they are certain he will attend hearings and he will not pose a risk to witnesses, victims, nor evidence. Now, even if the interim release is approved, he may not be allowed to return to the Philippines. A retired ICC judge has also confirmed that VIP treatment and a hospital arrest will not be allowed for Duterte. The pretrial chamber hearing is scheduled today at 1 p.m. Dutch time or 9 p.m. Manila time.
And as we await former President Duterte's appearance before an ICC tribunal, let's discuss what may happen later. And joining us tonight to discuss this is Attorney Dino De Leon, alumnus at the Hague Academy of International Law and the Georgetown University Law Center. He's also the director of the Human Rights and People Empowerment Center. Welcome back to the big story, Attorney.
It's a pleasure to be back.
You know, anticipation is so high. We're just an hour away, no? Counting the minutes to the first time we'll be seeing the former president after he boarded that plane, and of course, pictures sent to us. So what can we expect now that there is an indication that a postponement may be asked?
You know, in international law, we have to understand that every case is what we call in law sui generis, meaning to say, especially when it comes to dealing with crimes against humanity, it is not something that is well set. No? The reason being, there aren't a lot of instances wherein the crimes against humanity is considered.
So unique, you mean?
It's always unique. It's it's a class of its own, right? Meaning to say, there is some sort of flexibility when it comes to determining what should be done next. But based on the rules, what we can see is what's going to be next is, of course, his rights will be read to him. The language of the proceedings will be chosen. The third one is, of course, the accusations will be read to him. There might be a plea. It's not required, right? What's required is only an acknowledgement. But if he says, okay, I'm guilty, then afterwards there can be already
surprise. You think he might say that?
Well, he's been admitting on record all of the things, and given how bombastic the personality of the former president is, again, this is sui generis. We don't know what could happen next. But there's already a precedent in the ICC wherein there was an admission and a plea of guilty was entered, and forthwith there was a judgment that was rendered.
No need for a trial, of course, if
Because
you say.
there's already an admission,
admission.
right? An admission and a plea of guilty, right? So there can be that possibility. In other words, we are all now continuing students of international law because, as I mentioned, there aren't a lot of experts.
We are entering a new realm.
A new realm. You know, my classmates in the Hague Academy of International Law was congratulating President Duterte because he will be advancing international law because he will have a lot of contributions. International law students all over the world will always cite the Philippine case, right? Because this was a successful arrest and the proceedings will, of course, set a precedent.
Infamous,
Unfortunately,
infamous.
Unfortunately, the Philippines will be cited for contributing in international law because of the atrocities that, you know, our very own people suffered.
What do you make of his statement on the plane before he disembarked? He sent this, it was posted on his Facebook page.
Well, of course, you know,
Pwede ba yung i-enter ng evidence? Is that an admission?
there are a lot of things that can be entered in evidence, and everything, all these actions can be entered into evidence. But, you know, the initial sentiment was, but parang siya pa yung victim, no? I think there has to be a quick reflection on our people, no? It is not Rodrigo Duterte that is the victim. He is an accused in this particular case. He is not a victim. He is there to face justice and the wheels of justice. He will be given his day in court, which means that he will have a chance to explain his defense. He's not being oppressed, right? Because if there's an explanation of his defense, there's a possibility that he can be exonerated. So if they're saying that all he did was legal, was perfectly okay, was justifiable, then he will have his opportunity to present those defense in court. In other words, let's allow the proceedings and the process to take its natural course. Before actually judging the ICC, let's wait for the entire course to happen. I think this is a call for sobriety because ultimately our loyalty must be with the nation, with the rule of law, regardless of the personalities. I know we have different persuasions, you know, we have different people who we support, but ultimately, let's ask ourselves, where is our loyalty? And the loyalty has to be doing what is right, the rule of law, and no one should be above the Constitution, the rule of law, including international law.
Well, Attorney, let's talk about this appeal for a postponement, right? There's only an hour left before the initial proceedings. How likely is it that the ICC will grant that appeal for a postponement? And historically, I mean, what grounds have been approved to grant that postponement?
I heard that there's going to be a postponement. The camp of President Duterte will seek that. I don't think there is a likely justification, except for health emergencies, medical emergencies. But he was checked, remember. This is the International Criminal Court. They have good facilities. They have very good doctors.
They know the
condition. It's not very like the Philippines, right? Where all of a sudden you will wear a neck brace, you will come in with a wheelchair, and then all of a sudden you'll get VIP treatment or special treatment. It's not like that, right? Because they have the facilities. They have been dealing with international criminals, and they will be treated accordingly based on facts, not based on just comorbidities, for example. So in other words, it's not enough for you to just present that you have comorbidities.
But that's for health. What if, we just arrived, we're not prepared, etc.?
This is just, let's remember that this is just initial appearance.
Lang ito,
And this is just initial appearance.
Initial.
The pre-trial will probably be scheduled 60 to 90 days after. That is to give them time to also take a look at the evidence, to prepare their defense, to confer their counsel. In other words, the Rome Statute actually took that into consideration. And of course, because this is international law, they will be treated with dignity, like real human beings, right? Something that did not happen for all the victims, but they will still be given all of those due process. And that includes giving them time to, of course, prepare their defense intelligently.
Is there a possibility Mr. Duterte will ask that the language be in Bisaya?
That can be a possibility. And in fact, I've been taking a look at the job postings, in job
ICC?
postings in the ICC. And there have been a lot of
Ba't
job
mag-a-apply
postings
ka?
on, I'm just taking a look at it, you know, just to keep your
Yeah.
options, right? Because I'm a graduate of the Hague Academy. Sometimes you want to come back to the Hague. It's a beautiful place.
Okay.
No, the detention facility of Rodrigo Duterte is beside the beach, fresh air, right? So that's where we
Right
stayed
now,
as well.
it looks very cold.
Yes, that's true. But ultimately, there are job postings wherein they
So
were looking
meron?
for
Did you see
Cebuano
Cebuano?
interpreters. Yes.
This was
It's on-
recently?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
think it's still in the posting, if I'm not mistaken. But the last time that I checked, there was Cebuano translators. They're looking for it, and it's just that, you know, what's funny was it's what those who are being prioritized are ICC member states. So I don't know how they're gonna settle that. Maybe there were people who changed their nationality and then who speak
Yeah, that's
Cebuano,
possible.
because there are a lot of
I'm sure
Filipinos.
we're scattered all
Or
over the
scattered
world.
because of
Come
the
on.
diaspora, right?
Yeah.
But the priority has to be ICC member states. But they're looking in particular Bisaya and Cebuano.
Because he may
translators.
just ask that.
Yes, I think the ICC will be prepared for any eventuality. They have resources. Remember that there are 120 plus nations who are members of the ICC, and of course they contribute to make sure that this international mechanism, which serves as their safeguard too against despots, will actually be successful.
And attorney, what types of evidence do you think will be presented later in order for the judges to determine if it will proceed to trial? I mean, how much evidence will be presented against the former
This is not yet
president?
the pre-trial, so this is just the initial appearance. So what we will expect is only if they have interim measures of relief that they would want to avail of, just the rights, and then maybe they will just schedule the trial. So later, we don't expect any presentation of evidence, except maybe with respect to the interim measure of relief that they would want to avail of, right?
Okay, attorney, here's a question I have now. Will the president have time to speak before the court? And as you mentioned earlier, he has a history of being bombastic, right? I mean, how can the ICC ensure that the president will remain composed and that he will adhere to the protocols there during the proceedings, given his history of, unscripted remarks, of verbal outbursts?
If I were his counsel, it's not going to be the ICC's job to make sure that he's composed. It should be his counsel's job, because there are things that he might say there that might actually incriminate him. Having said that, in the ICC rules, if an accused or anyone becomes unruly, to the point of disrupting the proceedings, they can excuse them from the proceedings, and even if he has the right to participate, he can even be asked to participate via remote video conferencing if he becomes unruly. So if it's his right to attend the proceedings, if he is unruly, he's disruptive, then there will be mechanisms to ensure that the proceedings will continue without his disruption.
But what's the rule? Does he speak through his counsel, or will he be allowed to address the court?
As a general rule, of course, it's through the council. But again, this is sui generis, right? There are instances wherein maybe a former head of state or somebody who committed crimes against humanity will want to speak. And then the court, it is within the discretion of the court to listen to him. So if he raises his hand and the court sees nothing wrong with allowing him to speak, and his counsel cannot even stop him, then the court will exercise its discretion to listen to him, and always the consideration is whether it will advance the greater interest of justice.
All right, well, attorney, back here at home, in Davao City, we had a reporter reporting earlier, right, that Mayor Baste Duterte flew back home to Davao from Manila because he heard reports that yung bahay daw po ni former President Duterte, i-raid daw ng police force. How true is that? Is the ICC really issuing a seize order on the assets of the accused, in this case, Mr. Duterte?
The ICC can issue seize orders, right? But it will undergo proceedings, right? In other words, we expect that there's going to be
That's in the
some
main
sort,
trial.
yes, in the main trial, or maybe there's going to be an incident, and they will be allowed to participate therein, right? Or even if there's going to be freeze orders of assets, maybe not the House, right? Because the House is, the reason why they're freezing assets is because this might be used to, contaminate evidence or to, the resources, the witnesses, tamper with the witnesses. So my suspicion is if assuming that the word of Baste Duterte were to be believed, and maybe any raid will be in relation to another proceeding, not necessarily the ICC.
Attorney Dino, I did a quick check of past precedents of postponements of the initial appearance. And then in the case of Thomas Diillo, there was, they agreed to a postponement because of non-disclosure of evidence. But in this case, that does not apply, right?
And this is the initial appearance, or we're talking about the pre-trial already?
Pre-trial proceedings.
That's the pre-trial proceedings.
Yeah.
This is the initial appearance.
I see.
Right?
Isn't the initial appearance part of the pre-trial proceedings?
It's the first thing, and then the pre-trial proceeding,
Okay.
which is there is already going to be presentation of evidence. In which case, remember that they have to be allowed to prepare their defense, which means that the prosecutor should already be able to disclose pieces of evidence to them so that they can prepare within that 60 to 90-day period.
So let's not confuse the initial appearance with a pre-trial.
Correct.
This is merely procedural and there's no need to postpone.
At least for the initial appearance. Maybe this is the avenue wherein they will file for postponement of the pre-trial, right? Meaning to say, but in that particular case, if my memory serves me right, some pieces of evidence were not properly disclosed to them.
Correct.
Near when the pre-trial was already about to start, right? In this case, they have a lot of time to still prepare, 60 to 90 days.
Okay. Okay. Will decisions be made by the judges at this time?
For now,
or will they need time to deliberate?
For the interim measures of relief, if it's something urgent that they can really prove, then they can decide there and there. They will just confer because it's a three-woman panel, right? So they can confer, or they may say, okay, we'll take this under advisement, and they will still deliberate, maybe a day or two, but it's not going to be long, right? So for the initial hearing, I think the decisions will just be on the language, right? Minutes will be taken that in fact his rights were read, and that and the accusations against him, and there are a lot of other housekeeping, like for example, what would be the language, and then the parties will agree when will be the next trial dates. So it's like really the
timeline, parang
the timeline,
checking
right?
kung kailan, setting the dates.
Yes, so these are housekeeping matters that they will just agree on.
Okay. The fact that he was not booked, is that a flaw?
Booked in the Philippines?
Yeah, he was not. He refused to have his mugshot taken, his fingerprints.
In the Philippines.
In the Philippines.
Yes. I'm not yet privy of what happened in the Netherlands, right? But again, you will just be booked in the Philippines. Mugshots will be taken, fingerprinted if you're being arrested in the Philippines. Remember, there's a different concept here.
Okay.
He was delivered. Surrendered.
He
was not arrested. He was turned over. They were carrying out a warrant of arrest, but the arrest but he was just being surrendered to the arresting authorities, right? So I think he was fingerprinted, if I'm not mistaken, and all the bookings happened in the Netherlands when he got off in the local court of Netherlands before he went to the Hague and did the medical check-up. Now he's gonna do his appearance.
So hindi naman flaw yun.
And even if it's a flaw, it does not divest jurisdiction away from the ICC. Let's remember that. Flaw in terms of the arrest does not divest the ICC with the jurisdiction over the subject matter.
All right, well, Attorney, you have Attorney Harry Roque saying that once he receives recognition as legal counsel with the ICC, one of the first things he will do is to question the legality of the arrest. Is the ICC required to hear that petition first before proceeding with the pre-trial?
Well, most probably they will settle it before pre-trial. In any event, of course, he will question that. I am having a difficult time, with all honesty, determining the grounds that he will raise, because they even went the extra way. Remember, again, he was not. He was just being surrendered. They still read him his rights. That's not even required by the ICC charter, even by our domestic rules. He was treated properly. The police officers were very professional.
He was shown the communication from the ICC.
Correct, right?
The warrant.
He will try all these what I presume to be dilatory, but the ICC will be ready. Again, it's not like sometimes, unfortunately, in the Philippines wherein they can just carry their weight around. Right? This is the International Criminal Court. Most of the staff there, the judges there, are learned in international law. Hopefully, Attorney Harry Roque's tactics will work. Let's see. But I really sincerely doubt it because as we all know, as we've seen, the way that the arrest was conducted was very professional. Let's give credit where credit is due.
Okay, we're entering the realm of speculation here, but you know, yung General Torre talked about dilatory tactics during the day of the arrest. Yung talagang, ewan ko kung anong delay ang gusto nilang mangyari. And here again, delay. Bakit? Anong inaantay nilang political ongoings in the Philippines? What is the interest of prolonging this thing?
And of course, we can all
Speculation
just speculate,
pero
right?
From an educated speculation.
Educated speculation. You know, based on my experiences as a practitioner, sometimes you just need more time to contemplate. We're all in shock here. I'm sure no one is more shocked than their camp because they've been acting like they're beyond the law, that the international law will never caught them. And they're shocked and surprised. So you need to get your acts together, deliberate, buy more time. Otherwise, in 60 to 90 days, pre-trial will start and you have to prepare your defense. You may need more time, considering that I really honestly think the pieces of evidence are available. We've seen the Filipino people, a lot of Filipinos killed under the previous administration. These are facts that we're seeing. It's well documented. In broad daylight, these are well documented as well by human rights groups, by the media, admitted no less than by the president. We have Senate investigations, Quadcom investigations.
Even the ICC on their website, right, asked for testimonies.
So even the CHR, led by Senator Laila de Lima, had investigations about the Davao Death Squad. Those are pieces of evidence already available in government record. The Senate hearing that she also launched, wherein she was removed afterwards and thereafter she was jailed, right? And then we also have the Quadcoms, hearings. Pieces of evidence were offered there as well. We have the Commission on the human rights groups. So there are a lot of well-documented, crimes that happened, even by the media. Patricia Evangelista came up with an entire book on how she saw it firsthand. So, meaning to say, there's so much evidence and you need time to peruse through it and to actually contemplate what would be my defense, especially since he is also admitting it on record several times, which is a declaration against interest, which is the strongest form of evidence as well. It was because this is all bravado, right? To him,
he can say it's hyperbole.
But
he can say
he thought that never will he be caught. Medyo nalasing siguro rin sa kapangyarihan. Ang tawag nila doon is hubris. Yeah.
Well, we thank you for your time, Attorney Dino De Leon, speaking to us, pero we'll be seeing more of him,
yes,
right?
in just a few minutes, yeah. All right, now moving on to another story. Well, former PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde expresses his dismay over the arrest of former President Duterte. In an exclusive interview with News 5, the retired general admits his family is already affected by the issue. But despite this, Albayalde hopes that the administration would not just hand him over to the International Criminal Court without due process. Albayalde replaced retired general and now Senator Bato de la Rosa as PNP chief during the Duterte regime. He basically continued his predecessor's Oplan Tokhang, which is why there's word that he and De La Rosa could be the next subjects of warrants of arrest from the ICC.
Yes, we are preparing for this, of course, no? No less than your former president ay pwede mo palang isurrender sa isang dayuhan na korte where in fact meron tayong perfectly functioning justice system. Kung talagang sabi ko nga, kung talagang isusubo tayo ng gobyerno after serving this country for almost 38 years, kung ito po ang isusukli ng ating gobyerno sa atin, wala po tayong magagawa.
Meanwhile, Albayalde is also reacting to how Duterte's arrest was handled by colleague and CIDG Chief Major General Nicolas Torre III. Torre said they exercised extreme maximum tolerance and even a little bit of special treatment for Rodrigo Duterte. But Albayalde has a few choice words for Torre.
Bastos. Bastos in a way na hindi siya na-accord ng due process din. No? Puwersahan, nandun. So, nandun yung nakita naman po natin, di ba? Na kung paano siya natrato. halos sabihin niya na kung hindi ka tatayo dyan, kakalad ka rin kita, iakyat kita doon.
And over at the Senate, preparations are already underway for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Senate Secretary Renato Bantug Jr. confirmed that senators are being fitted for robes following a go signal from Senate President Chis Escudero. The robes are said to have the same maroon color and design from the impeachment trial of the late Chief Justice Renato Corona in 2012. The proposed start date for Duterte's impeachment trial is July 30th.
We're pausing for another breather, but right after that, we go back to the Netherlands, where former President Duterte is facing the ICC in just half an hour. Our very own Gretchen Hall gives us the latest when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on The Big Story. We have a little over just 30 minutes before Rodrigo Duterte's first appearance before the International Criminal Court. We have learned that there will be 5 lawyers who will be part of the former president's legal team. And we now go back to Gretchen Ho, who's keeping watch on today's events at The Hague. Gretchen, what's the latest from your end?
Okay, Ses, Pauline, ito na, nasa pila na tayo ngayon. Pumasok na tayo ng ICC. Mukhang mahigpit talaga yung seguridad. Isa-isa kaming siniscreen dito. Pero may accreditation naman tayo. At ito nga, magsisimula na. And just, I guess more than 30 minutes, the proceedings will begin. But you have to go through the security protocol. And dito sa likuran ko, i-anuhin ko lang ha. Wait lang. Makikita natin yung anti-Duterte supporters, anti-Duterte protesters here outside. They are sinasambit naman nila that there have been numerous human rights violations during the Duterte administration. 30,000 lives gotten according to them. And kanina kumakanta po sila ng ibong may layang lumipad, if I got that right. But they have placards. They also have photos of those who passed away due to or during the Duterte administration's war on drugs. So malakas silang tinig nila dito. They are here to this side, and on the other side, nandun naman yung mga yung mga pro-Duterte supporters. So magkahiwalay sila. Both of them have permits, and konti lang. Kung mapapansin mo dito sa sa pila na ito ay marami ring mula sa ibang bansa na sasali at papasok doon sa hearing. May mga Pilipino pero marami ring mga dayuhan na who want to come and witness this historic event taking place. Again, we will begin in I think more than 30 minutes, but we have to go through all the protocols. They're very, very strict. Hopefully walang aberya at makapasok tayo sa loob ng mabuti.
Gretchen, you did say earlier that this proceeding will be made available online. It will be streamed online, but there will be a 30-minute delay. Can you tell us more about that lag? Bakit mayroong 30-minute na delay from the actual happenings dyan sa Hague?
Ang narinig natin kay Attorney Gilbert Andres, it is for security reasons. So, yun ang binanggit niya, no? Siguro para di rin magkagulo dito. Pero ito, sorry, kailangan ko na atang umalis in a bit kasi malapit na ako sa pila. Pero yun nga, no? Abangan po ninyo, no? I will try to do my best that I can to cover from inside and to be able to bring you updates real time. But again, kung gusto nyo sumabaybay, nasa ICC website naman yan.
All right, Gretchen, we don't want you to lose your seat. Go ahead and go inside the hall, and we will be again waiting for your updates live from The Hague in the Netherlands. Thank you so much.
Well, the world is definitely watching Duterte's initial proceedings at the ICC. This is the first time a former head of state is facing the tribunal over crimes against humanity. And of course, we are marking this historic day with a special coverage. Join our very own Ces Orenia Drilon here and One News editor Ed Lingao as they keep track of the proceedings from The Hague in the Netherlands. You can catch this coverage on One News starting at 9 p.m. You can also catch it via live stream on the official social media platforms and channels of News 5, 1PH, One News PH, True TV, and the Philippine Star. Right, so still so much to look after, Mrs.
Yes, you know, Pawi, we have to discuss that portion of our news last night when former Chief Executive Secretary Medjel Dea said, oh, there's some conspiracy, something to that effect, right? But what really happened?
Yeah, so many questions on last night. ES Medjel Dea faced members of the media saying that the president wasn't inside the ICC detention facility, that he was brought to a hospital that they did not disclose. But quickly after, the ICC made a statement that they have jurisdiction or they have in custody Mr. Duterte. And ito na nga po, no, initial proceedings will happen today. And as Attorney Dino De Leon mentioned, this is just very procedural.
Yes.
They will confirm his identity. They will state the charges on Mr. Duterte. And we'll see then kung magagrant itong appeal ng petition to postpone the initial proceedings that is being filed by Attorney Harry Roque and the Vice President Sara Duterte.
Right. Catch that later in just
in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Mag-uusapang sports po muna tayo. But that's it for the big story this Friday night. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching The Big Story. We'll see you again in half an hour for the coverage of Duterte's first appearance at the ICC.
Now do stay tuned because play-by-play with Andre Felix and Cheska Liton Calao is next. Hey guys.
Yes, alam kong you guys are very, very busy.
Yep.
Yes,
Bagong
boss.
gupit ka.
Wow, very
lean.
Alam mo ba?
you.
Ha?
Oh yeah, you too.
Grabe naman. Gusto ko yung...
Sorry, mas maganda kasi yung gupit
ang napansin ni Ces, ako. Ang napansin mo si Cheska.
Yeah.
Wala ka napansin. Oh, the new haircut din si
Oo, pareho kayo.
Check. Oh.
The hotter it gets, baka umiksi pa to lalo.
Okay.
Gusto ko yung hindi ako napansin. Ano, sanay ka ng ganito yung ano ko.
Yeah.
Usap na lang kayo mamaya.
Patay tayo. No, hindi, I was about to say, kasi you noticed my haircut, nainggit ako sa'yo because nga, pumunta ka kina Tita Cherry at...
Ninang Cherry.
Ninang Cherry and Ninang Chot.
Ninang.
Oo, kinuwento ko sa Tony and Guy. But I know you will be very, very busy later on with Bok Ed Lingao and the one and only Ces Orenia Drilon for our special coverage over at The Hague. First appearance ni former President
Big night.
Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Thank you once again to The Big Story. Have a great weekend if you will have any. Thank you to Ces and to Pauline. We've got scores from today's NBA games on the show tonight, plus Game 1 of the PBA Commissioner's Cup Finals between the TNT Tropang Giga and Barangay Ginebra San Miguel.
And we've got Pinay Pool champion Rubelin Amit live in the studio to talk about her latest victories and what she's got in store next.